Hey, Seth Clendang again here. Today I'm just going to talk about the actual fight or invalid targets. In other words, where you cannot strike to. Okay? And I'm going to just list those off. If a strike goes to the throat, and that's basically any part of it, it is not a valid point. And you should, if you hit somebody to the throat, you need to be a lot more careful, first of all. And you should say, sorry, you're all right. You need to make sure, again, that you guys are wearing a gorget. I really do not want somebody to take a throat shot. If it's just you and your buddy, wear one of these soft ones. If you're at a tournament, you have to have the metal one. See my gear video for a quick rundown of stuff. So, but this is not a valid target. Now, if it hits the chest, slides up into the throat, that actually is a point. So we're talking about the first contact, just like that Star Trek movie. First contact is the one that matters most, okay? Other invalid targets. This is kind of a good example. My Luke helmet does not have back of the head protection because back of the head is not a legal target. So think about where this kind of ends. So like the back or the side of the head going toward the back, covering just the back of the head is not a legal target. Now, the side of the head is. The front of the head or the face is a legal target. The back of the head is not. Okay? And again, that is the first contact. But we should be, the judge or director should be stopping it after a single contact is made. All right? The next and really common place that's in an invalid target, but that's kind of becomes a gray area, so don't get too bent out of shape. If somebody calls a point, that's your fingers. Okay, so we're not talking about the back of your hand or your palm. We're talking about the actual knuckles or actual fingers, yes, your thumb too, themselves. So just your knuckles are not a valid target. So as I mentioned before, you know, somebody hits there and it bounces onto your finger, that kind of hurts. That's not a point. Now, if the director calls it on you, you might be able to get away with it and say, hey, that was a finger shot. Then after that, you might just start to annoy them really bad. So you shouldn't do that. But you should call honor on yourself, first of all, by the way, if it's a valid target. So if it's any of the areas that are not mentioned today, everywhere is legal. And you should call honor on yourself. You don't have to, but you kind of should. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is talk about thrusts versus cuts. So I'm gonna just put this armor on real quick. My shoulder gear, it's so fancy. Okay, a cut is like a slash, okay? And a thrust is a stab, okay? So a forward motion, you know, going straight forward. If it was like this, it would be a cut. If it's like this, like you see in fencing a lot, that's a thrust. So there is a little difference on this. And that is for the difference between thrusts and cuts. So as I have this gear on, hopefully you can see okay, and where this gear basically ends, that's where you cannot thrust. Okay, so basically my ribs to my knees. So in between my ribs, so I get in there, or I kind of do that gluteus maximus like you did in like, not gluteus maximus, Heimlich maneuver, one of those things. That is not a legal target. It hurts too. Down to your knees. So if you get stabbed or thrusted anywhere in here, it is not a valid target. If you get cut or slashed to there, it is a legal target. Okay? So that's just your ribs to your knees. No thrust. Yes, you can cut. Okay? Again, you shouldn't be cutting hard. It's just enough to make contact. Okay. Other invalid targets are the groin. Guys and girls, not a valid target. Doesn't matter if it's a cut or a thrust. And then you're basically from your ankle down. So if it hits your ankle or anything below it, in other words, your foot, that is not a legal target. You can fight barefoot, I don't suggest it, but some surfaces like martial arts schools don't want you to wear shoes on their mats. You don't have to wear shoes, okay? So invalid targets as a review. Fingers or knuckles only, not a throat, not a back of the head, not a groin, not a foot. And then if it is a thrust from the ribs to the knees, so basically where this gear ends, that is not legal down to my knees. I'm gonna make my thighs. Okay. Adios.